Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is Demons 2, The Nightmare Returns. Now, this came out in 1986, and this, of course, is a sequel to the 1985 Italian horror film Demons, which I just did a review on. Now, much like the first one, this was co-written and directed by Lamberto Bava, and was co-written and produced by Dario Argento. Now, like the first Demons movie, I first saw this movie when I was 15 years old, and I actually saw this before I saw the first one, and I'll admit, I didn't really like this movie when I first saw it, but this is a film that's definitely grown on me over the years. Like, the first Demons movie also kind of had to grow on me over the years, but I still liked the first Demons movie when I first saw it. This is one that, once again, I wasn't really that big on when I first saw it, but over the years, this really has become one of my favorite sequels. Now, I don't think it's as good as the first movie, but like the first film, I just find this to be such a fun movie. Now, in essence, this film is kind of more of a remake of the first movie than it is an actual sequel. Like, it's a remake of the first one, only instead of being set in a movie theater, it's set in a high-rise apartment building, but it does not appear to actually be in continuity with the first Demons movie, because the first Demons movie ended pretty much with the end of the world. The first Demons movie ended where Cheryl and George managed to escape from the movie theater, but it turns out that some of the demonic zombies also got out of the movie theater before they did, and they spread this demonic virus, and the movie ended where demons have taken over the entire city and possibly the entire world. What's funny is, this movie actually kind of begins like it is a direct sequel, because there's an opening narration where it sort of recaps the events of the first movie. But it turns out that that narration is actually from a movie within the movie, and the movie within the movie seems to be picking up where the first Demons movie left off, but it does not appear that the events of the first movie actually happened in the universe of this film. Unless you want to assume, and this is a fan theory here, this is actually my personal fan theory, unless you want to assume that maybe there's a multiverse at work here, and maybe the events of the first movie actually happened on a parallel Earth, and now the demons have jumped from one version of Earth to another. Once again, that is just a fan theory, and it's sort of my way to connect the two movies continuity-wise. And normally I complain about sequels that don't share continuity with their predecessors, but given the metafiction nature of these movies, it's actually kind of appropriate. Now, the plot of Demons 2 is it takes place in this high-rise apartment building, and in the film you follow this girl named Sally, who's having her birthday party, and she freaks out when she finds out that her ex-boyfriend is going to be showing up to the party, so she storms into her room and starts watching this movie playing on the TV. Now, it turns out that this movie is playing on pretty much all the TVs in this apartment building, and the movie is a horror film about demons. Now, while she's watching this movie, the movie somehow comes to life, and a demon crawls out of her TV and ends up taking possession of her. After she gets possessed, she turns into a demonic zombie, and then she massacres all her friends, and then they come back to life as demonic zombies as well. Eventually, these demon-possessed teenagers escape from Sally's apartment, and they go throughout the entire apartment building, scratching and biting people, which causes their victims to turn into these demonic zombies. Now, these demons also have acid for blood, and when Sally's friends were turning into the demons, they bled all over the floor, and the blood got through the floor and went through wires and basically caused a blackout, which caused all the doors to this building to lock. So now nobody can get in and nobody can get out. So the people in this building are now trapped with these demons. Now, in the movie, arguably the main protagonist is this guy named George who is trying to get back to his apartment so he could protect his pregnant wife. And that's the basic plotline of Demons 2. Now, I actually really liked the soundtrack for this movie. Now, instead of heavy metal music like what they used on the soundtrack for the first movie, this soundtrack includes a lot of new wave music like The Smiths, The Cult, Dead Can Dance, and Peter Murphy. And I'm not gonna say all the music necessarily fit the film, but it was all good music, though. And the score by Simon Boswell was also really good. And while it is a very cheesy movie, there are actually some pretty creepy scenes in it. Like, there's a scene in this movie where this dog gets the demon blood on it, and the dog turns into a demon, and that scene where the dog turns into the demon is actually pretty freaking terrifying. There's also a scene in this movie where this little boy gets possessed by demons, and he attacks the character of Hannah, and then this little gremlin bursts out of the little boy's body, and it is kind of a creepy scene, but it's also kind of cheesy as well, because the gremlin is clearly a puppet. And there are some cool little callbacks to the first movie. For example, Bobby Rhodes plays this weight coach named Hank. Now, Bobby Rhodes also played the character of Tony the Pimp in the first film. And also the same actor who played Ripper, who was one of the punks in the first movie, he plays the security guard in this movie. Now, Lamberto Bava, who directed this movie, and he directed the first one, he has a small cameo appearance in this film. And this was also Asia Argento's first film. Asia Argento is, of course, Dario Argento's daughter, and she would go on to become a pretty well-known actress in her own right. Now, this might sound like a really bizarre comparison, but I always kind of associate this movie, believe it or not, with American Psycho, because I actually bought this movie the same day I got my DVD copy of American Psycho, so I kind of associate the two films in my head, even though the two films in reality have nothing to do with each other. But also, I do want to point out that some of Sally's friends in this movie do kind of look like they could be rejects from a Bret Easton Ellis novel, minus the cocaine. But yeah, I like Demons 2. I don't like it as much as the first one, but I still think it's a pretty fun sequel, so that was my review on Demons 2, The Nightmare Returns, and my next movie review will be on the 1989 film The Church, which in my personal opinion is the true Demons 3.